you so freaking bad. Wrestle me.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome back. It's a new motherfucking year. This week, Juice Pro Wrestling is being brought to you by the Freebird rule. That's right. When you got 3 in the group and one of them wants to go away, you can tell them to get the fuck out of here and let Juice and Bodi service your every needs, wants, and desires. That's right, motherfuckers. It's 2024. The Juice, Bruiser, Bodi, back in action. Episode 255. Tag 'em and bag 'em. Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for bringing us such a lovely 2023. We hope you enjoyed all the shit we did that year. And it's a whole new year. And we're going to start off talking about some fucking tag team wrestling. This is one that Bodi and I have been talking about doing for a little bit now. And I think maybe this is coming up on 5 or 6 years now that we've been doing this show. And so there's been a couple times where, we like to always cycle back because much like with video games or entrance music, that's shit that you can run 10-hour fucking episodes on.
Yeah, no kidding.
So like getting started into this and we can dive into all this fucking shit, entrance music, all that shit once we start talking about these guys. But
yeah, of course.
I'm going to be pulling a little bit from my head. Bodi's got a list compiled throughout the generations, and we're just going to be talking and sharing quite a few of the most memorable tag teams in professional wrestling. And you've probably heard of 99.9% of these tag teams. And I'm sure there's going to be some that you fucking haven't. So let us educate you and get this fucking shit started. Yeah. Well, I crack the kick off the new year. Christmas is over, but
the new year.
Got to get that 3 Floyds Alpha Claus Christmas border.
I love 3 Floyds.
Art by Simon Bisley. Oh, I wonder why it looks like Lobo, huh?
I love Lobo. Don't get me started on Lobo.
Yeah.
I want my own Lobo movies, damn it.
Fuck yeah, dude. We can't do it right now. We can't trail off into that. But
no, we can't.
Let's how far back are we going? Where do we start, Bodi? This tag team extravaganza.
Wow. I see that we got to start back into the 50s and 60s. Okay. I mean, when I thought of tag teams when we were talking about doing this episode, I'm like 70s, and I'm like, who were the tag teams in the 60s? And the only one I could think of, and we'll get to it in a second, was 5-time AWA tag team champions, Dick the Bruiser and Crusher. Yes, that was the only ones I could remember. And I was like, man,
I could really think of.
Yeah, and I was like, dude, it had to have been somebody else. It couldn't have been just Dick the Bruiser and the Crusher. So I got to looking, and I was like, oh, here are the main ones. And oddly enough, in the early 50s, 1957, there was a tag team called the Fabulous Kangaroos.
Get the fuck out of here.
I'm not even kidding, man. And they're credited for putting tag team wrestling on the map, and they're legit Australians. I guess there was like later versions of them, but the authentic version was formed when Italian-Australian Al Costello teamed with Australian native Roy Heffernan and adopted the ultra-Australian gimmick, complete with boomerangs, bush hats, and the song Waltzing Matilda. Take that.
I thought they would have had some Dexys Midnight Runners, but what do I
know, right? But yeah, that's like the most famous version of the Fabulous Kangaroos. Are those guys?
Never heard of these guys.
They're regarded as one of the best tag teams ever to compete in professional wrestling, and credited for popularizing tag team wrestling in the late 50s and into the 60s. Really quick, cool note about this. Later versions, as I was saying, one of the versions in 83, the new Fabulous Kangaroos consisted of little-known wrestlers Mickey Doyle, Denny Cass, and a young, spry Al Snow.
Really?
Yes.
Holy shit, dude.
So Al Snow was one of the versions, the last versions, I believe, of the Fabulous Kangaroos, and
was coming in late.
The most popular of them all. Yeah.
He's a part of the New Rockers too. Remember that shit?
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, dude. And then he was Leif Cassidy.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, there's your little tag team history lesson, folks. Look it up. There's a lot more that we left out with that. We don't want to get too deep because that would be like an hour just explaining these guys, but go and check them out. Like I was I was blown away. I'll just put it that way. A lot of good facts, a lot of cool career and accomplishments that these guys had.
Flying Kangaroos, huh?
The Flying Kangaroos, 1957 debut, put tag team wrestling on the map.
Fucking crazy.
Crazy. And then the only other one from the 50s and 60s that were prominent, and I thought they were 70s, but then actually date back to the 60s, early and late 60s, is the Minnesota Wrecking Crew, consisting of Ole Anderson and Lars Anderson, and later on Gene and Arn Anderson.
Oh, yeah.
So, but that makes sense to me. I'm like, oh, okay, so that's why I kind of put them in the 70s, maybe 80s, because of Gene and Arn. But now they started out Ole and Lars in the 60s. So, Dick the Bruiser and Crusher, 5-time AWA champions, the Minnesota Wrecking Crew, our Anderson brothers, and then the Fabulous Kangaroos, 57, put tag team wrestling on the map.
I think for that time, dude, the Crusher and fucking Bruiser got to be like, I mean, that's my favorite, dude.
Oh, yeah.
That's that Midwest connection right there, dude.
Definitely. And, mainly raised in Wisconsin, that holds a special place in my heart. And that's why I knew of them, because that's, history, Milwaukee history right there.
Yeah, holding that keg.
They even have the statue out there.
Yeah,
that's by West Dallas, man. It's pretty killer.
What's up with Indianapolis, man? They don't have one of fucking, a Bruiser. What the fuck?
I don't know. No love for the Brewers. That's why. They're too.
Huh? Dude, I was looking up a bunch of old shows on like Cage Match or whatever .net or whatever these sites tell you like exact dates and who was on these cards. You can go way back. Yeah, dude. I was looking up a lot of old shit like the WWA, like with Dick the Bruiser and the fucking Crusher on that shit, dude. They ran a lot at the Hammond Civic Center out here.
Oh,
dude.
wow.
Yeah, it was fucking.
That's awesome.
I'm looking at these cards and it's just like a who's who of fucking legends.
Oh, of course. It's got to be.
Yeah. But anyways, next.
All right. Well, then we go into the 70s. And that's, I believe, when tag team wrestling started to evolve a little more. And then you started getting the actual teams involved, and started getting the themes and everything. You know what I mean? It didn't just, it started with Fabulous Kangaroos and who we talked about before, but going into here, it just felt like a whole new evolution of tag teams in the 70s. And leading that evolution, I would like to think, even though there might have been some before them, I think they were the most predominant, and that would be the Fabulous Freebirds. And, this show is being sponsored by the Freebird rule. So there you go, the Fabulous Freebirds. And who doesn't remember them, or who not a fan of them either? I mean, like, come on, Bad Street USA coming down to the ring.
Well, it's funny because a lot of
PSAs.
Yeah, dude, the strut and getting up on the fucking rope and just doing that.
Yep.
And pointing at each other. Like, it's so ridiculous, dude. It's so fucking ridiculous and funny.
It is.
Like, but even the cast that grew up watching them in their prime and shit, that absolutely hated them, once they got older, they found a new appreciation. It's like, these guys were good because they made me hate them. They did their job,
They did. Yep.
I fucking love the Freebirds. And I think they got to be, that Freebird rule shit was, dude, that is fucking awesome. Cause like, I've always thought that with stables, anybody in that stable should exercise the fucking Freebird rule. Cause it's like almost like a wrestling team or an MMA team, like I like shit like that.
Right. Yeah. And as a tag team, you can be any combination of said 4 or 5, however many members you have, like 4 horsemen. I would love to see, not just like Arn Anderson and Benoit with the titles or whoever it was at the time.
Yeah.
Anybody. Could have been Flair, Flair and Anderson, or Flair and Pillman, or, anybody. But yeah, Fabulous Freebirds, man. The Freebird rule, concession stand brawls, just fucking wild shit, man. And they lived it. They were it, they were like, we'll get to some of the names coming up, but like the Rockers, Rock and Roll Express, and like everybody took a little bit from the Fabulous Freebirds, even to today. Young Bucks, I would even say, takes a little bit from the Freebirds, and I believe they even mentioned that.
Yeah.
But come on, Fabulous Freebirds, revolutionized.
Music, dude.
Oh,
come on.
Boom, 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 dude. It got you. Yeah, dude, it got you going. Like, oh yeah. And people loved it. People loved to see them get their ass kicked. They put the asses in the seats because people wanted to see the faces whoop their ass. They were good at what they did.
Yeah. And dude, that rivalry against the Von Erichs.
Oh my God, that's one of the greatest rivalries in wrestling history, dude.
Yeah, dude. And speaking of the Von Erichs, I mean, that's another team. I know, like Kerry and them wrestle. Well, did they do anything? Did they have anybody in the 70s? I don't know if that was like.
I think it was 80s, early 80s, like
it had 81. To be early 80s. Yeah,
it was like 81 is when they started, and because like the Freebirds were like mid to late 70s. I mean,
yeah.
I'm not sure the exact debut date, but you can check it out. Fact check us, put it down in the chat, leave a comment. Let us know. Well, I mean, we're trying not to get into too specifics. We're just talking about memories. We're talking about teams, and if it's predominant, then we'll spit out some dates and some facts to you. That's what. Yeah, Von Erichs were 80s, like early 80s. But who was in the 70s was the Jack and Jerry Briscoe brothers.
Oh yeah,
the original
the
Briscoes.
OG Briscoes.
Yeah, the OG Briscoes.
I remember when I first found out like about the Briscoes, Mark and Jay, like years and years and years ago. Yeah. I thought, without knowing anything about them, like, are these like, one of the Jack or Jerry's kids or something? That's what I thought like too.
That? Yeah. Jack and Gerald, aka Jerry.
Yeah. Which one was it? Jerry was the Stooge, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was one of the McMahon Stooges.
Jesus.
But that's what's funny is like I remember when I knew who Jerry Briscoe was and Jack Briscoe. I knew of the Tay team, but when during that whole Vince McMahon Stooge thing is when I really was like, I really need to go back and I want to watch some of these, like how he was Briscoe and the Briscoe brothers back in the 70s, and they're tough sons of bitches, dude.
Like super tough.
Yeah, super tough. Legit. Before he was a stooge, he was a mean son of a bitch. So, yeah, dude. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And then another great brother tag team tandem, and who could not forget? Am I putting that way? I'm sorry.
Who could forget?
Who could forget? Yeah. Anyways, I'm not here to talk. I'm here to list off tag teams. Anyways, the Funks.
Oh, dude.
Terry and Dory.
Yeah, dude.
Dory Jr. Sorry.
Right. Fuck yeah, man. All these, the South, dude. There's so many great tag teams from the Southern United States, man. And the Funks, dude.
True.
Two more guys that are fucking just tough as nails. R.I.P. to fucking Terry Funk.
Yeah.
Another thing, I was telling you, I was going back and I was watching or looking up shows and shit that I had been to and trying to find the cards. So it was like South Bend, like the Joyce Center. It was fucking 1998, and it was like a Raw house show or whatever. And dude, Terry Funk versus Mark Marrow, man.
Oh my God.
Holy shit. I totally forgot about it. But once I saw the card and then like stuff, memories start coming flooding back. It's like, damn. And that was a good card, man. I also saw at the time the Nation, it was The Rock and the Blackheart, Owen Hart.
Wow.
Versus, who the fuck did they fight? It was Farouk and someone else. I can't fucking remember.
Farouk Assad?
Yeah.
With the helmet?
Yeah, that was fucking horrible. But
dumbest ever.
Yeah, dude, the Funk's one of the greatest fucking tag team tandems of all time. Two brothers that held the NWA World's Heavyweight title.
Yes, they did.
Boris Jr. is still around. I read he was just at the Performance Center and shit. Like,
oh wow.
So any of you young wrestlers out there, men and women that are down there that are listening to this, that's a guy that you want to fucking spend some time with.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. And then while we're on brothers, why don't we talk about the Valiants? The Valiants were in the 70s into the 80s.
Fucking Jimmy and who was the other one?
Johnny.
Jimmy and Johnny. How they fucking space that?
Hell yeah.
Fucking crazy beards. They fucking weren't the Moondogs fucking in like the 70s too?
Yeah, I think so. 80s? Yeah, I think you're right. I think Moondogs were in the 70s. Man, I didn't even remember them until you said that. Wow. Yeah, the Moondogs. But yeah, the Valiants, I just remember like seeing some stuff more like Crockett promotion videos and stuff like that, and seeing them wrestle, and like I knew of them. I didn't really follow them too much, but I knew like every great feud always had the Valiants. So, and they knew tag team wrestling. They did it right. They knew the psychology of it, and a
lot of those old school teams.
Oh man, masters of the hot tag.
Yes, right.
Yeah. Stretch. Shag him. And then the Wild Samoans, Afonseca, 1970s, Captain Lou Albano.
Oh man, dude. I mean, that's part of that fucking dynasty, that lineage, talk about wrestling families, which maybe we'll have to cut an episode on that. Cody's theme song is correct. There's more than one royal family in wrestling or wherever the fuck it is.
Royal family. Yeah. Boo. But yeah, the Samoans. I mean, the Wild Samoans, dude. Like, if you don't know who the Wild Samoans are, then you might not be a wrestling fan.
You might not.
But if you don't know who they are, please go and check them out and look them up. They're wild. It's in the name, Wild Samoans. I mean, they were like a more.
they're portrayed as
the Bushwhackers.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Like they were portrayed as savages.
Yeah. What about and the Bushwhackers? Speaking of them, what about this? Had to be around the same time. The sheep herders, dude.
Yeah, sheep herders.
They, who became the Bushwhackers.
Late 70s into the 80s. Yeah,
yeah,
they were late 70s.
Some of the fucking bloodiest bras, dude.
Oh, they're sassy.
Yeah, dude.
Dude, they were, and that's what kills me, is like, as I got older, I knew who the Bushwhackers was when I was little, but as I got a little older and I found out they were the sheep herders and I started watching them, and I'm like, damn, these dudes threw down.
Yeah. McMahon made them some fucking clowns, But,
yeah, those pricks.
I mean, hell, you still remember them, even if they did fucking get eliminated in 1 second in the Rumble and like lick you. Hey, whoa. Yeah.
Yeah. Those pricks. And then you got the Blackjacks, dude. I loved the Blackjacks. Blackjack Mulligan and Blackjack Lanza, dude. The best clothesline in history. Like those dudes had lethal ass clotheslines.
Lethal lariats. That's what they should have changed.
Yeah, exactly.
Called them the lethal fucking lariats. They had a cool look too, man.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. Oh yeah, dude.
It was like some out of Tombstone or whatever.
Yeah. And I've always liked Blackjack Mulligan, dude. He reminds me of like Stan Hansen and Bruiser Brody and those kinds of suckers. Mm-hmm. Those dudes that just don't give a shit, whoop your ass, take a shot of whiskey, slam a couple of beers, come back and come for seconds and whoop that ass again. That's what they do. Yep. And then last but not least, and I sort of remember the tag team, and before he was a manager, he was a wrestler, Mr. Fuji and Tanaka.
Yeah.
Fuji and Tanaka were actually a really good tag team.
Yeah, and those guys all those dudes got their shit in back in the day. So it's it sounds we're being repetitive here, but all these fucking teams just went fucking hard, before like New Japan Strong style was like coined. Like these motherfuckers were just laying in.
They were tough. They were powerhouses. And Professor Tanaka, that dude was a powerhouse. I remember him just how brutal he was in the ring. Like he was just built like a brick shit house. Even later on, and funny thing about him, he would later go on to have a decent film career too. So look him up.
Didn't he? He did the fight scene. No, wait. No, I'm thinking of something else. I'm thinking of like the Rock's dad. He's the one that did the Bond thing. But no, Tanaka was whatchamacallit, and he was Bond. He was Odd Job.
Yeah, he was. He was Odd Job.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. If you look him up, you'll see movies that he's in. You're like, oh yeah, that is him. Oh. But Mr. Fuji and Professor Tanaka.
And Fuji went on to be like, dude, one of the greatest, most memorable managers of all time,
Oh, yeah.
Of all time. So that being said, dude, let's dive into the fucking 80s, because that's where
everyone's waiting for, right?
Yeah, into the 80s and 90s is where like tag team wrestling really starts to, I feel, fucking just become its own thing. And super fucking popular. We're going to start getting guys. We're going to talk about like my favorite tag team ever, the Road Warriors and shit, like stuff like that you
we're going to get into some good shit.
Yeah. That you remember, dude. This is when that started to fucking happen. And I think Vince did a great job of like back then, like tag teams were pretty fucking awesome, you know, marketable and shit like that.
That's,
look at, you know, the Bushwhackers. Come on.
I mean, they were just talking about them, the Bushwhackers. Like, this is when I think tag team wrestling took another step forward. You know, it started with the Freebirds and the Samoans and, you know, Luscious and Handsome, Jimmy Valiant, Johnny Valiant, the Valiants. You know, it started with them. Like, it started becoming a little bit more showman, a little bit more theatrics with the tag teams. They started getting, you know, into it. Like the Bushwhackers, like you said, you know, the whole, oh yeah, you know, rubbing each other's head and shit like that. But you still had your powerhouse teams. You still had your legit
it was a good,
powerhouse
good mix
teams.
Of styles.
Yes. And one example is Doom, Ron Simmons and Butch Reed. Like, one of my favorite tag teams because you just can't fuck with them. I mean, you can't fuck with them. When women let them down in the ring too.
Big ass brothers looking to fuck shit up. Two legit badasses, you know. Ron Simmons, like, dude, Florida State Seminole, like college football Hall of Famer.
Damn.
Like, damn, yeah, that's what he's. Unfortunately, that's what he's known best for.
Yeah, I know. Unfortunately, he's.
But hey, unfortunately, but fortunately for him, he's still able to make. He might even have that fucking trademark. Who knows?
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
Right.
And then he's teaming with the Natural. I mean, the Natural Butch Reed. I think this was before he went blonde, right?
yeah. And managed by fucking Theodore Teddy Long, dude. Yep. Like, and woman, had like that greasy pimp fucking hair and that mustache, dude.
They were first managed by woman before Teddy Long.
I remember, you know, my time with Doom was like the Teddy Long shit. And dude, they were badasses. To me, they were the opposite of like the Road Warriors. They didn't have all the fucking spikes and the whatever, but they just remind me of if there was anybody that could go toe to toe with Hawk and Animal and fucking you'd believe
Doom.
It's fucking Doom, dude.
It's Doom. Yeah. They were out to whoop some ass, dude. Those were some mean dudes. Those are some bad dudes. About
WWE Hall of Fame and all that, which encompasses, you know, obviously fucking celebrities and, you know, people that never even wrestled for the promotion because they own all these intellectual properties now.
Exactly.
Dude, Doom's one of those teams that just, they need to go in, man.
Yep. They would have to. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And while we're on
a lot of this too, and I think in the 80s, a lot of these teams we're going to mention, or if they're not, I don't know, there's not really a lot of tag teams in the Hall of Fame that I can think of.
It's a lot of individual.
Yeah, I mean, there's your obvious, you know, go Road Warriors and whatever again, but when you get some more tag teams up,
exactly, we need some in there. And you know, before we get into the, because I believe, at least what I saw growing up was NWA had great tag teams, AWA had great tag teams, but for some reason the WWF just had like the tag teams, like all of them, you know. And I don't know if it's because of bigger stage or what. But I mean, with NWA and AWA, you had the Midnight Express, dude. I mean, legends, Midnight Express, and dude,
with James E. Cornette.
Yes, I was waiting for it. I was like, I didn't want to say his name.
That fucking theme music.
Racket. Oh
yeah, dude. Midnight and their feud with the Rock and Roll Express, dude.
Yes.
Like, holy shit, you know, like Southern wrestling, just wrestling as a whole, fucking history, great matches, like holy shit. And dude, guys like, you know, Rock and Roll still going to this day, like 40 years, whatever it's been in the fucking business. And one of those teams that really kind of changed the game and paved the way, I think, for some of the smaller dudes in wrestling and the more acrobatic moves and all that shit, you know, all the drop kicks and all that. And then you had guys like, obviously now we're in the 80s talking, you know, you can bring the Von Erichs back up, saw them doing shit like that. And then Sean and Marty, you know, starting in the AWA, you know, the Rockers and going into, like you said, WWF. Vince just knew they couldn't really do no wrong back then, dude. We're talking about, you know, pre and like beginning, middle, and end of in the decade of the golden era of fucking WWF. You know, there's so much fucking shit.
So much, man. Yeah. And Midnight Express, I feel like they were the best at doing, or actually Rock and Roll Express were the best at doing the tag team tandem moves, you know, at the same time. Tag team moves, hot tags back and forth, you know, like keep it moving. And you needed the classic heel team. And as the Freebirds are to the 70s and the 80s, the Midnight Express was to the 80s, the South to the 90s.
Yeah. Freebirds in the 80s too, man. Fuck.
Yep. Freebirds came into the 80s feuding with the Von Erichs. But man, was that those tag teams to me, like, kind of lifted off these next batch of tag teams we're about to talk about in the, WWE, WWF at that time. Mid to late 80s. I believe the late 80s had that WWF tag team push. If it wasn't for the tag teams we just mentioned, I don't think that would ever happen. And Vince McMahon, being the genius that he was, saw this and he was like, God damn it, I can market this. So he went ahead and marketed it. And I mean, you came up with tag teams like, Demolition.
Demolition, dude.
Demolition. We're going to talk about Road Warriors and LOD/LOD. But yeah, Demolition was one of those that, for me personally, I loved LOD, Road Warriors. Loved them. But Demolition, was if the Road Warriors were doing this in the AWA, NWA, I had Demolition and WWF holding it down because they gave me that feeling that the Road Warriors did.
Oh yeah, it was cool.
Later on, as I got older, I would recognize that they're in bondage gear, and I was like, well, as a kid, it looked cool.
Yeah, it did.
And they had that fucking,
just walking out and you're
yes. Here comes the axe. Here comes the smasher. Dude.
The Demolition. Walking disaster.
Dude. That was my favorite theme song, dude. I was like, yeah, dude. Dude. Wanted it all.
And you had Road Warriors, another, that dominated the 80s everywhere. I think they came in, so they didn't reach WWF, I think, until early 90s.
Early 90s, yeah.
I think it was early 90s when they went there. But, dude, they were the biggest team that WWF at that time had yet to sign or have, like the biggest team ever in wrestling. They were on there's a fucking WCW Nintendo game I think they're on the cover of.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And like I said, going to Japan and killing it and just all over the fucking country. And
yeah,
dude, that look and coming out to fucking Iron Man, Black Sabbath,
this is
holy
shit, dude.
Fuck. They were snacking on danger and dining on fucking death.
That's right, dude. Yeah, they were. And then
fucking riots. God,
dude. Oh, it was the best, dude. Smashing dudes with getting smashed by weight plates and then coming back and whooping that ass.
Yeah, or pulling the fucking spikes off the
spiking dudes in the eye, dude. And one of the best T2 moves ever. Let's not forget the best T2 move ever, the Tower of Doom.
Yeah, the fucking doomsday device.
Dude, the clothesline on the shoulders, like breaking necks and cashing checks, bro. Like it was just another day at the office.
Yeah,
but yeah,
dude, my favorite. They're
number one. I mean, they're the number one tag team. But when they got to WWF, that theme song actually ripped, dude. I liked their theme song in the WWF, dude.
Oh yeah, that one.
Hitting that tremolo, dude, getting that feedback. I'm like, oh,
that shit fucking rips.
Oh man. Yes, dude.
Kicking it off.
What a rush, dude. Sorry, man. I'm reflecting right now, everyone. Sorry. Sometimes we'll be talking, and if you hear me pause for a little bit, it's because I'm getting serious nostalgia here, man. So I apologize. I don't apologize because I hope you're getting that same feeling. Yeah, Road Warriors, Demolition, and then I mean we have a bunch of one of my favorite tag teams in the 80s, early 90s. But they started in the 80s, especially NWA, and then when they went to WWF, was the Killer Bees.
Oh
B.
yeah,
Brian Blair and Jumping Jim Brunzell. Yep, yeah. B. Brian Blair.
Yeah, dude, they're another team. They very keep the shit going, acrobatic stuff.
Yeah, the very Rock and Roll Express-esque.
Yeah.
They were just they kept it moving, tag in, tag out, high flying. Tandem moves. They were great. I loved them.
I loved them as a kid. Yeah, super marketable too, man.
Yeah, totally, dude. And even their runs in the the territories. In the territories, they had a killer run. And then I have to mention them because we're talking about kind of marketable. and they were the jobbers, but they still look cool, conquistadors. I mean, they were huge. Like for me, I just constantly remember them. And then when Edge and Christian kind of mentioned, redid them later on. But I mean, I felt like I put them on here because they're like the ultimate kind of like jobber tag team. It seemed like everybody was beating them to me.
I thought that was like the Brooklyn Brawler and Barry Horowitz.
Yeah, right. It was. But like
Jerry Flynn.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny because every time like you'd see them, they were getting their butt kicked. But I put them on here because of that, because I just remember that. And you mentioned it earlier, the Rockers, Heartbreak Kid, Marty Jannetty. They're like awesome tag team, dude. Like
there'd be no Hardy. I feel there's no Hardys without the Rockers.
There's no Young Bucks without the Rockers.
Bucks. Yeah. That's what the Young Bucks to me remind me just of, like the Hardys and the Rockers, you know, mixed together.
Yeah. And of course, the ultimate heel turn before the Hogan heel turn. Shawn Michaels turning on Marty Jannetty, throwing him through the window. Can't forget that. Iconic.
Can't forget the stories Marty's told about killing someone as a young kid that tried to fondle him.
Exactly. And Marty bringing broads left and right. You know, he's always partying. That dude.
Always working that gimmick.
Always got to work the gimmick, bro. Mm-hmm. Get your shit in. Get your shit in. Trying to think where we want to go here. Actually, you mentioned them earlier. Let's talk about them. British Bulldogs.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. Dude, Dynamite Kid and Davey Boy Smith. Dynamite Kid, probably the poster boy for every guy that was super small coming up in like 80s and 90s and beyond. That you could fucking be that small and still, dude was fucking, I mean, he was gassed, juiced out the gills, but he was fucking ripped and was doing, you know, once again, another one of those guys that was just doing like some of the more acrobatic shit and the headbutts off the top and all that. Yep. And just him and Davey, dude. Davey obviously being the powerhouse because he was bigger, but great dynamic, great look. And it would the Matilda, the
Bulldog. Matilda, the Bulldog.
Yeah, calls Matilda. Boom, 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 boom.
Making their way to the ring.
And a coming down the aisle. And a combined weight of 22 pounds.
Matilda.
Matilda's Fupa. Looking at my thoughts earlier, like damn.
They had killer feuds too. For example, with
the Hart Foundation.
Exactly, the Hart Foundation, and later on, you know, being in that family.
Stretch him. Yeah, Bulldogs gonna stretch him. Stretch him good for that. Stretch him.
Dude, Hart Foundation, Jim the Anvil Knightsky, and Bret the Hitman Hart.
Yeah.
Dude, the heart attack off the ropes. Like, god damn it, dude. That team, I loved the Hart Foundation, dude. And Jimmy Anvil Neidhart, dude, just looking in the camera, stroking the goatee, laughing. Oh,
like look crazy as delivery.
Looked like he was just coked up out the gills, dude. Just got done doing a fat rail with hacksaw on the back. Dude, just coming out, ripping them. You know, Hitman coming out all cool. Looked like he just got out of the shower.
Yeah, the hair's all just fucking wet. That was the dynamic.
The technician and the brute, And you got every tag team had that. They had like the high flyer and the brute, the powerhouse and the technician and the brute, or two fast dudes.
Yeah, like Sean and
the Rockers.
Yeah, I think Sean and Marty were pretty even. Like
they're
just
agile.
The whole term of Marty Jannetty and all this, what it has become now. Or that fateful day back in early 90s. But anyways, I think he's grossly underrated. Like Jannetty was fucking good in the ring,
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
He totally was. Drugs and pussy.
Yeah, and he just couldn't get over by himself. And I think he was his own worst enemy. He got his own way,
For sure.
That's what happened. But that, dude, talking about the Hart Foundation, going back to that. Fucking the music, dude.
Yeah, it was so good that Bret took it with him.
Yeah, he took it with him, dude. He was like, yoink.
Yeah, right.
Mine, Jim Johnson. You want to throw a little lick on it, so make it mine?
Yeah.
But no, the best part was they took it out. Bret Hart took out the best part of that theme song. It was the
yeah, dude. I like when it's got the like keyboard behind it.
Yeah, dude, that's the shit, dude. I would just jam that forever on WWF Raw on Sega Genesis for hours, just keeping on Bret the Hitman so I can jam out to his music.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I did. We're just, I think we got to talk about, and there's sometimes like now you got, your AEW tag team champions, Big Bill and Ricky Starks. They're just kind of thrown together. There was there's guys that were thrown together back then, but they made it work and they came up with a team name. Just one off the top of my head, Money Inc., Ted DiBiase and IRS. They both loved money. Match made in heaven.
I loved Money Inc.
I loved Money Inc. and I was a huge DiBiase fan as a kid. I loved it. I wanted him to kick the ball out of my hand. I wanted to do, I was a mark for that. I popped for that. That's
and then Erwin R. Shyster comes along. I mean, it's kind of a match made in fucking heaven.
It is. With Virgil, their butler. I don't know if they ever. Yeah, they had Virgil for a little bit.
Was he still with them for a little bit? I can't remember.
I think for a little before he kicked his monkey ass out of there.
Yeah.
But, man, that sounded so bad. That's right. Cut that out or beep it.
It sounds. He don't mean it like that, kids. So
that
you can leave that
fucking terrible. Oh my god.
Oh god.
I didn't mean it like that. That sucks.
Well, what about teams that came together too? If you want to speak of guys that were just thrown together, like two top guys in the '80s. That formed a super team, dude, that had a name, the Mega Powers, dude.
There it is.
Hogan and Savage, like great story behind it. Randy thinks that Hogan's fucking wanting to bang Liz and all that. And it,
yes.
Culminates in that fucking feud. But for the time they were together, dude, that would seem like an unstoppable fucking tag team.
Exactly. The handshake heard around the world, dude.
Everybody's still doing it.
Yeah, everyone still does that. That was the best. When they joined forces, that was like, I can't even tell you. It was like, fucking Batman teaming up with Superman. You know what I mean? It was like that iconic. It was like, holy crap. Like Mega Powers, Hogan and Savage. And then, yes, one of the best breakups in the world, Savage coming into the Hogan's carrying Miss Elizabeth to the back, Savage all sweaty and red-eyed, like, where are you going? He gets pinned, brother. Yeah, it doesn't work for me, brother. Gets rolled up. He goes to the back, and then that whole scene when Miss Elizabeth's on like the doctor's bed and everything, and Savage is, no, brother. And then
that was like some of the most viewed shit in wrestling television history too. I think because I don't know if it was like a Saturday Night's Main Event or some kind of whatever special it was on NBC. Yeah, NBC, I think.
NBC.
That's one of those two. NBC.
Yeah, I think so. And, we got them, but you got to go with, and I don't know if you really call them thrown together. I think it was more like kind of DiBiase and IRS. Eventually you bring them together. Or did they start this way? No, they didn't. I don't know. Educate me out there. The natural disasters, typhoon and the earthquake.
Yeah, earthquake came in first.
That's what I thought. And then Tugboat Thomas came in and they changed him into Typhoon, didn't they? Or was it the vice versa?
Tugboat, he became Typhoon. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Became Typhoon.
Okay.
He came in, he was like kind of like a good guy, and then
I had to think about that for a second. So I'm like, man, when it gets so many years rolling by, it kind of hard to remember some of that. But yeah, like they were thrown together, but it was kind of like, why wouldn't they team together? You know what I mean? It was like once you put them together, Earthquake and Typhoon, it's like, oh.
Yeah, two fucking beasts.
Make some monies. Let's make some monies. You want to make some monies. But yeah, exactly. Two beastie men.
Beefy, and meaty.
Meat.
Lots of meat.
Meat.
I'm a mark for meat.
But yeah, as that tag team, like, back then, I'm like, who's going to beat these guys? These guys are like 400 pounds each. You can't slam them. I mean, you can probably like tire them out and get them gassed real quick, blow them up in the ring. But no, they were just like monsters,
Yeah.
Fucking monsters. Yes. I forgot about that.
The theme song.
Wasn't that all that was too? There was like no guitar, no music. It was just
there was something. I think like Storm Song. I haven't listened to it in years, dude. But fucking.
I don't know if there was any tornado sirens in that or not, but you know who we can't forget, dude, that we got to mention right now.
Who's that?
Ricky and Scotty Steiner, dude.
Dude,
me and my brother. Yeah, the Steiner brothers, dude. Early 80s.
Early 80s. Well, yeah. Club. Rick got started first, and it's crazy to go back and watch a lot of the old AWA stuff. He's on there. And he's
Michigan coat.
Looking like Scotty did. Yeah, he was all fucking huge too, man.
He was jacked, dude.
Yeah, and then once fucking Scotty got in there.
The luscious locks.
Late 80s, into the 90s, the Steiner brothers were once again everywhere, And they ended up in the WWE as well. Insanely popular. Yep. Although I think, I don't know, that WWE run was just kind of,
Yeah, I agree.
They didn't work well.
NWA run was way better.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it worked.
Another fucking thing. And they just went in the Hall of Fame, That's something that hell froze over. Bro, hell
rolls over. We're going through here. Actually, somebody I want to mention because they actually came out of this.
Real quick before you go into this, because the one thing I like about the Steiners too, and I love like Steiners Road Warriors, dude. Like that shit was always.
Oh my god, that was one of the best. Yeah, I love that feud.
They had like the, like much like the Doomsday Device, but get them on the shoulders and the Bulldog off the top.
Oh yeah, the Bulldog off the top. That's broken a couple necks before. Yeah,
yeah, dude.
Yeah, that one's lethal. I loved that tag team move. That was good. Anything like that was yes. It's like the LOD, just reverse it and Bulldog it. Good thinking. Great job. But what I was going to say, and that was a great point you made. I don't want to forget this because they came out of the 70s, but I categorize them more into the 80s because that's where I've seen the most of them, and that's the Fabulous Rougeaus. Sorry.
The Rougeau brothers, yeah.
Rougeau brothers. They actually started late 70s, like 78, 79, but more of their prominence was in the 80s and early 90s, like Fabulous Rougeaus,
WWF,
Jacques and Ramon.
American boys. That theme song rips too, dude. All American boys.
Did they have the flags?
Yeah.
The little.
They were there.
Just wave the flags. And that was like, I don't want to say they're the first, but they're the first I remember like heels, but they kind of made me laugh. Like they were like serious heels, but they had like a comedic side to them, and like there was other wrestlers like that too. But when I was a kid, that's all I kind of remember of them mostly was just like the flags. They were a great tag team, but they had a lot of body language that was comedic, classic heel, like bad guy versus good guy type thing.
We'll do classic heel like tag teams in the 80s too. What about Nikolai Volkov and the Sheik, dude?
Exactly. Holy cow, dude.
Like during that time, probably two of the most hated men in the world.
Yeah, exactly. Like put them together. Mega Powers versus Volkov and Sheik.
Yeah.
I mean, a funny story, dude. I don't know if I ever told this on here, but back in the, I want to say late 80s. I'll have to fact check this and ask my dad. My dad sat next to Volkov and Sheik coming back from Wisconsin. They did a show in Milwaukee. I think so. He was going somewhere on business. And my dad was like, he was telling me the story when I was a kid. He was like, I realized, he's like, I turned and it was Nikolai Volkov and Iron Sheik. And I'm like, no way. That's awesome. And he's like, hey, he introduced himself and, my dad does a pretty good Iron Sheik. I'm not going to lie. He hasn't done it in a while, but I'll have to ask him to do it. But no, he did a great Iron Sheik. He's like, hey, my son is a huge fan of you, telling him he was kayfabe and it huge. Like, I was like, dude, fuck these dudes. But anyways, like you meet him, he's like, my son's a huge fan. And Iron Sheik's like, well, you tell your boy, he got good taste. And that's like, he said they were really nice.
Sheiky baby.
Yes. Sheiky baby. But yeah, I'll have to ask my dad about that again. And that's the great memory that I have of the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov when they were wreaking hell in the WWF. That was cool. He said they were really nice guys on the plane. So I was like, what? Really nice dudes? I want them to take the plane down.
They hate us.
Yeah.
I ran number one.
I have speaking of Nikolai Volkov, remember the Russians?
Yeah,
the ruthless Russians, Ivan Koloff, Crusher Khrushchev, and Nikita Koloff.
Dude, Nikita, yeah. That was like that team was, or stable, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. were the fucking, that was the launching pad for Nikita, and Nikita was,
yeah, it was.
To me, when Goldberg came out, he reminded me so much of like fucking Nikita, you know, just the look,
wearing the chains.
Yeah, dude. But they call him the Russian bear or the Russian sickle.
Russian sickle. Yeah, he was a sickle. Ivan Koloff.
And Ivan, dude, fucking another guy just from a bygone era, dude. That fuck
exactly.
You up.
They would.
Crusher Khrushchev, your boy who became Barry Darso, who became
Barry Darso.
Was he Axe and Demolition or Smash?
Smash. He was Smash.
Yeah, he was Smash, and a million other things. He was a golfer in WCW.
Yep, he was a Repo Man.
The Repo Man. Remember the Repo?
Worst
Repo Man. But dope ass theme song.
It had a dope theme song. I'm not gonna lie. Dope theme song.
Can't forget the Russians.
There's somebody I have to mention, but before I mention this team, because they're one of my favorite teams, and as I got older, I'm deeper appreciation. But anyways, we can't forget Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood. They teamed, and they had a great run. And I think that was not too long after they teamed. What, didn't Youngblood pass away? Jay Youngblood? He's too long after they teamed. I thought it was like a few years after they teamed, but Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood tore up the territories as a tag team. They won championships.
Super baby,
great feuds.
Baby
crowds pop. This is like almost Von Erich, not Von Erich level, but you know, it's like they were huge when they came to town. You wanted to go and see them. You know, you're not going to get, and no one's going to get Von Erich unless you're LOD, Road Warrior Pop.
That's right.
So you're getting all these facts, Road Warrior Pops, you know, and stuff like that. Steamboat and Youngblood. But no, what I was saying before, Brainbusters.
Oh yeah,
Arn and Tully Blanchard. Yes, Arn and Tully, and before that, in the Horsemen.
Yeah,
you know, they were tearing it up before they came to WWF and started tearing it up as the Brainbusters with Bobby Heenan as their manager, joining the Heenan family.
Yeah, that's another stable that I can feel should, and they did, like kind of exercise the fucking Freebird rule. You know, you could take, even though anybody. They were like really the only, I'm trying to think of actual tag teams that he had in there, which, you know, he didn't really have a lot of tag teams per se.
Andre and Haku, they teamed for a while.
You know, and Perfect was a part of that. Rude
Dino Bravo.
Dino Bravo. Yeah, you could have took any of those guys. Dude, Rude and Hennig, you know.
Yeah, Rude and Hennig. Yep.
And that goes together because if you know the fucking history, I mean, those cats went to school together, you know, Robbinsdale, Minnesota.
Yes, exactly.
All the rough boys come from. Ooh. I'm a rough boy.
And you know, we're gonna move into the 90s, but going into the 90s from the late 80s, Strike Force, we can't forget Strike Force, Tito Santana and Rick Martel. I remember them.
Go back, watch our fucking episode with Tito.
Yep, they were tag team champs. They were WWF tag team champions at one time before Rick Martel got all sophisticated and started spraying guys in eyes.
The fucking model.
The model. Now, here we come to the meat and potatoes. So we come out of the golden era of the 80s. Now we're going to get into some early 90s. Some of these teams leaked in from the early 90s. But we're talking like 93 to 95, 94 to 95, maybe to 96. And then into the late 90s, we started seeing another. I think it's a common theme throughout this whole show, another evolution of tag team wrestling.
Yeah. 90s got over super huge for tag team wrestling. I mean, you look at the Hardys, Edge and Christian.
Oh my God.
Dudleys, you know, the Rockers in the early
Outsiders.
90s. The Outsiders, dude. Another one of those teams. It's like, hey, we just took two super huge, you know, heels or faces. Two huge stars and put them together, but it worked, and they were the Outsiders. And to me, dude, that's a hell of a team, dude. Hall and Nash, you know,
dude, they were a hell of a team, dude. They wreaked havoc for life.
Too sweet me when you meet me.
Sweet me when you meet me, brother.
I saw some dude the other day was wearing a fucking. I was out at the bar with Brad and had an NWO hoodie on. He's walking out, and I just looked. I was like, hey. Too sweet me when you meet me, bro. Like,
all right, yeah. I think that early 90s going with the WWF style coming from the late 80s. But dude, they had a mean streak. That was the Nasty Boys, Pity City.
Yeah, dude. Man, it was weird. I don't know if I could ever say really like them, maybe I can appreciate them now, but they did do some repulsive shit, you know?
Yeah, they did.
It's kind of like what I was talking about earlier. Like they did their job, you know, with the Freebirds.
Yeah,
they didn't like them, you know. Always loved.
They had a cool look, dude.
Yeah,
I love like
cool.
the paint scraped, splattered,
the pit
coats,
stop,
the pit stop, the glasses, the sunglasses are all paint splattered. The trench,
Nasties at that time were
dudes.
Fucking awesome. Nasty,
they were.
As I am. I didn't really care. Like they did some shit in WCW, but once, you know, who was it? Knobs that ended up getting I don't know what happened with Jerry Sags, if he just quit
I don't remember.
Was hurt or whatever.
Yeah, I don't remember. I know when they kind of went
and then I split. I know I definitely didn't want to see him in 2010 in TNA.
No, nobody needed to see that. I didn't think that was going to be a thing, but it was.
Jimmy Hart managed them back in the day.
Like, yes, he did.
Yeah,
they were over huge, great heels.
Another team that I would think at some point you would think has to go in the Hall of Fame, because
you would think so for what they did.
Yeah, and they're super fucking memorable, dude.
Definitely very memorable. Another memorable team too, kind of teetering that early 90s style, late 80s leaking in, was Power and Glory, Warlord and the Barbarian.
Yeah,
dude. Ooh.
Wait, was that Warlord and Barbarian? They were.
I thought it was, or was it Paul Roma?
That was Paul Roma.
It was it was Hercules and Paul Roma.
Yeah,
Hercules and Paul Roma. But you also had Warlord and Barbarian. What were they? Powers of Pain.
Powers of Pain.
Powers of Pain.
Yes.
So you had the Powers of Pain, which they're on here too. They're on the list. They're just a little bit.
Which later became in WCW the Faces of Fear.
Exactly, the Faces of Fear. I love you. You're the best. Which also had Haku and Barbarian.
Yeah.
Meng and Barbarian.
Meng. He'll fuck you up.
What up, Meng? That's what I would say to him. I'm like, what's up, man?
I don't think so, Tim.
I don't think so, Tim. Another one in that early 90s.
Spit out the Bloody Mary.
There you are. That you can't forget is Orient Express.
Yeah, dude.
Do you remember them, dude?
Yes. They had like the red red attire,
like
kung fu.
Yeah, almost like the Komodo sashes too.
Yes, dude. Who was that? Was it Tanaka and who's the other fucking dude? Who was in there?
The later version, it was Tanaka and Kato, who was actually Paul Diamond under a mask.
Really?
Yeah. But the OG Orient Express was Tanaka and Sato.
Yes. Dude, they were fucking dope back in the day.
Yeah, dude, I love the Orient Express. Not back then. I thought they were rats, but as I got older, I got a better appreciation for them. And I had
Fuji with them too. You know?
Yeah, Mr. Fuji with them. And I'm like, when I was kind of writing names for this name, the Orient Express popped in my head. I was like, man, I should go back and watch some Orient Express matches. I was like, I'm really curious as to some of those matches. I remember them wrestling certain tag teams, having great feuds, but I'm just like, now I'm older, I want to watch and appreciate more of what they did. You know, I feel like they're flying on that radar. I want to appreciate
any fucking. They are, and any team with the name or word, I should say, Express in it is good in my book.
Yes,
there's something about those Express teams, you know.
Them damn
we
Express
ought to get like
teams.
A drug cartel fucking gimmick and go and call it like a
yes,
like some. God damn it, I lost the fucking joke. God damn it, whatever.
I hate when that happens.
Like Express Express Scripts. I don't know.
The Express Scripts.
Dumb joke. Sretton cut it out.
Yeah, Sretton cut that joke. No. You know, and then some other early 90s tag teams too, that kind of, because when you get to the mid 90s to late 90s, I think like styles changed. And I want to credit that to ECW kind of, and like the Attitude Era,
WCW. The Eliminators, man.
The Eliminators, Saturn and Kronos.
Yeah.
Fucking brutal. The Pitbulls, if we're talking about ECW tag teams, the Pitbulls. Before we get into some more ECW. Yeah, Public Enemy. I mean, there's some more I want to talk about, but just to list off a couple of those early 90s. I mean, the Beverly Brothers. They were there.
Yeah, dude. You get who the fuck the Outrunners team that's going on now, and they're with AEW. They were in NWA or OVW. Yeah. They kind of get.
They remind me of the Beverly Brothers a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
With the mullets and the mustaches. So good. American Males.
Pictures. Oh, dude,
Bagwell and Pillman. American Males.
Scotty Riggs and what's his name? God damn it. He was on our fucking
Norton?
show. Buff Bagwell.
Buff Bagwell, yeah. Yep.
You're thinking of Vicious and Delicious.
Yes, I'm thinking of Vicious and Delicious. Yes, I am.
Another good WCW tag team. And what the Hollywood Blondes, you know?
Exactly. That's where I was going next. Lead right into it. Good job.
Stunning Steve and Brian Pillman. Yeah, dude. Like, they were super over. It sucks. They were. That's always heartbreaking. You know, when I hear fucking interviews with Stone Cold talking about it, he's like, yeah, they had us as a team and then we were doing really good and then fucking broke us up. I'm like,
split us up. No reason.
Yeah, I remember watching that shit as a young kid, you know, like that. They were a fucking cool team, man.
They were awesome.
What could have been? I mean, obviously it worked out for the best for you. Yeah, you can say both of them to a certain extent, you know. I mean, they both ended up on the biggest stage, you know.
They did. But we all know what happens after that.
Yeah, Dark Side.
Don't need to get into it. Rhythm and Blues.
Oh, dude,
another two-man team kind of thrown together.
You like Rhythm and Blues?
Yeah, I don't really like Rhythm and Blues, but I liked the tag team of them because of just the feuds that they had. Just the feuds that they had. And it was like two guys you wouldn't think would tag team together, and they made it work.
Yeah.
Like Greg the Hammer Valentine, Honky Tonk Man. It's like... But then they made a team name. This is what I was talking about earlier, like Big Bill and Ricky Starks. You get two guys thrown together back in the day. They're like, we're going to come up with a name. We're going to come up with a gimmick. So, I mean, that's why I had to throw that on there. They're memorable to me, Rhythm and Blues.
And Greg the Hammer's LJN on my toilet right now. I need to get a black Sharpie. Give him the Rhythm and Blues treatment.
Dude, give me the Rhythm and Blues treatment. Please. Okay. I'm cool. I'm cocky. I'm mad.
Hell yeah.
I don't even remember Greg the Hammer Valentine's music, so I don't even want to bother.
You gonna do sex to me? Did you like that video? If so, be sure to hit like and subscribe and check out more killer content from your boys at Juice Pro Wrestling. Whoa, yeah!